Greetings, I'm Dr. Sean Reed, author of the Dating Toolbox, available on Amazon.com. All right, so today I want to talk about, or I want to ask the question, why do women love psychopaths? Why do women love sociopaths? Sociopaths and psychopaths are a little bit different, but for our purpose, they're the same. They're the same because they are completely 100%. The definition of being a psychopath, a sociopath, is they're 100% able to emotionally detach themselves from situations. Now, I'm not going to argue in this video that you should go out and you should be a psychopath, you should be a sociopath. Of course, I'm not going to argue that. But what I am going to tell you is what things can we learn from psychopaths and sociopaths that will improve our abilities, or that will improve our women, our success with women. And again, the key here really is the emotional detachment that they have. That is really the key to why women love psychopaths and sociopaths. They're emotionally detached. That results in confidence. That results in dominance. They just don't care about anyone or anything except themselves. So they're very efficient about saying and doing what they need to do to get what they want. Okay. Now, again, guys, I want to reemphasize that I'm not telling you all to be psychopaths here, but I want you to learn some of these lessons. Most men watching my videos, a lot of the comments are the exact opposite. They care. They're overly caring. They're too emotionally attached to outcomes. This is a key issue in Buddhism. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They're overly attached to outcomes, and as a result, they're driven by their emotions. So today I want to kind of teach you how to detach yourself and thus become much more successful with women. Okay, by the end of the video, I'll give you a good idea of how you can do that and some examples. One example is I just watched this movie, over 30 years old, but it's called Miami Blues, with Alex Baldwin and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And he was a sociopath, and she turned out to be this really sweet, beautiful gal that loved him, and she essentially would do anything he wanted because he was so ruthlessly efficient. He was good looking, of course that helped, but everything he did was based on cold calculations to get what he wanted without any regard for anyone else. Okay? Now, of course, at the end of the movie, he's dead, and most psychopaths, sociopaths end up with bad outcomes in prison or dead or something like that. So again, don't be a sociopath, but learn that lesson of how to emotionally detach yourself from outcomes in situations, how to emotionally detach yourself from situations and relationships where you have a tendency to get very, very caught up in your emotions. And I'll give you a good example of this from my own life. So I need surgery, and it's kind of a big deal. I won't get into the details, but when I get the surgery, I expect that my wife will go with me to the surgery and then will bring me home from the hospital and take care of me. So I was discussing this with her the other day, and she started to get very upset. She's like, well, I'm going to have an important work day that day, blah, blah, blah. I can't make it. And so I did not detach. I was emotionally attached to that, my feelings and that outcome. So I started to get very upset. So, I'm like, are you serious? Are you really, is your, a meeting you have at work more important than my surgery? And I started to argue with her. And you guys, if you watch my videos, that one of the worst destroyers of relationships, even for men that are naturally very good with women, even for men that do all the things they need to do to keep their wives or their significant others in love, arguing is the worst offender. Arguing is the best way to drive a woman's interest level down, because really what it does is when you argue, you're showing weakness, you're not showing strength. So I got upset and I started to argue, but then I walked away and I came to my bedroom and I'm like, look, you need to be, don't get caught up. You're upset because you feel that she's putting her work ahead of your life and you're getting surgery. You're upset and you're very attached to this outcome, to her feelings, right? And you're very attached to your own feelings. So, as a result, the situation was spiraling out of control and we were starting to argue. So I came into my room and I settled down a little bit and I realized, I coach all my guys not to fight, not to argue. Here I am fighting and arguing. And I realized I wasn't taking my own suggestions, right? Physician, heal thyself. So what I did is I settled down. I detached from the situation. I said to myself, okay, what are you going to do if your wife doesn't go with your surgery with you? And I go, well, I'll get my best friend to take me home. So I calmly went back in the room and I told her, I said, well, you know what? If you can't be there for me on my surgery, I'm going to have my friend Walter pick me up and thank you very much. And suddenly she, she broke down. I'm sorry, baby. I love you. Please hug me, right? Because then she realized what she was doing. But if I had kept arguing with her, it only would have escalated the situation. Plus, I was also able to step back. Again, this is called detachment. The Buddhists do this. I'll talk about this in a moment. But by detachment, I also took a look and to realize what was going on. What was going on with my wife was, I've talked about this before, but I have retired. I'm no longer bringing much income into the house. Now, I bought the house and I paid off the mortgage. So the way our finances were structured for many, many years is I paid the mortgage and my wife paid the insurance and the taxes and a lot of the upkeep on the house, right? The mortgage was generally more than all that. So and now I paid the mortgage off and I've retired, okay? And so from my point of view, I've done my share, but my wife, again, women are more emotional. And from my wife's perspective, she's working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. She's paying insurance, she's paying taxes. We've got a bunch of repairs to be made. I just spent $3,000. She has to spend at least $3,000. So she's seeing me sleep late every day while she's still working. And her mind can't grasp the fact that I paid the house off. I paid my share and that it's fair. All she can do is see things from her perspective, and that drives her emotions. But once I was able to step back, once I was able to detach and understand that, it made it easy to realize what was going on, and I was able to act appropriately. I calmed myself down. I came in very calmly and I said, if you don't want to go with me on my surgery, that's fine. I'll get my best friend to go. And at that point, she realized, if you have a good woman, again, guys, selection is 50% of this process. Sometimes if you get the wrong woman, it doesn't matter what you do. But if you have a good woman in a situation like this, and you don't fight, you don't argue, she'll understand and she'll turn around and she'll act appropriately. But the key here is that I was able to emotionally detach from the situation, okay? And again, this is something that the Buddhists are very big on. One of the reasons why I like Buddhism, because Buddhism teaches you how to detach yourself from outcome. We're constantly obsessed with outcomes. So let's apply this to women, okay? I'm obsessed. I go to talk to a woman. I'm obsessed. Does she talk to me or not? Okay? If she doesn't talk to me and I'm attached to that outcome, I'm going to be all butthurt and heartbroken and my confidence is going to lower, right? Because I'm attached to that outcome. If I'm not, again, if I can be like a little sociopath and I only, I view opening conversations with women as just one of the steps of the process it is to getting successful dating and successful. If I view that objectively and I'm no longer attached to it, getting rejected isn't going to hurt me whatsoever, okay? Let's say that I do successfully open her and then I go to number close her and she said, this has happened to me many, many times. And she says, the conversation's going well. And she says, I can't give you my phone number. I have a boyfriend. I'm emotionally detached from that outcome, right? I'll realize, hey, I successfully opened her. She had a boyfriend, but the next woman I successfully opened, she will give me her phone number. Similarly, guys, you know how nervous you get when you call up a woman or text. You're texting her trying to get that first date. You know, I see there are guys with 100 videos on texting, and you know, a lot of guys think, oh, if I just have good texting game, that's going to get me women. But really, that's not what's going to get you women. What's going to get you women is detachment from the outcome. If I'm texting and I'm not obsessed with her response, I'm not obsessed with her reaction, that is going to empower me. Okay, that's going to give me, I'm going to be confident. So I meet a girl, I get her phone number, I start texting her, and the texting doesn't go. She waits to respond to a text, right? That I see that all the time, guys. You know, she hasn't responded to my text. It's been 24 hours. It's been 2 days, and guys get obsessed with that. It's because they're attached to the outcome. Again, guys, that's another reason why we have lots of phone numbers. We're constantly opening women. We're constantly getting phone numbers, because that way we have, you know, there's just not one woman. We have 10 women. We have 10 phone numbers. And if that one doesn't react the way we want, we'll move on to another phone number. Okay. So this is all, you know, this ability to detach emotionally is critical for all stages of the relationship. Sex, right? I see so many times guys are obsessed. Am I going to get sex on that first date? Am I going to get sex on that second date? They're obsessed with sex. Don't, guys. You've got to detach yourself. If you're detached from that outcome, the chances are much higher that you'll get that. So what you're seeing here is this emotional detachment, this key ability to detach yourself from outcome, not only helps if you're 20 years into a marriage, it also helps if you're just meeting a gal. All right, guys. So if you like what you saw and heard today, please hit that like and subscribe button. We need to build a community of men trying to get other men, trying to get all of us to be successful with women, to get women to love us and to stay in love with us.